And it looks like the spigot's coming loose in the west here. First of all, these forces charging up. More reinforcements coming, some direct deployments in the south port. That will be out of supply unless I've built a hole, which may be the case. Yeah, I think there's a hole there. Oops. Depending on what the exploitation movement is, you know. I'm launching attacks here, 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 not using airstrikes everywhere, obviously. And then another one on the river line. I've thinned out the Allied river line even more. The Germans might come flying out and try to attack. It hurts their defensive position to do it, but, you know, Battle of the Bulge type thing, right? You know. And again, more reinforcements. These were the port landings from last turn, coming in and just flowing, just constant manpower growth there. I saved one airstrike to support a possible exploitation attack. And over on the Russian side, I didn't get any extra activations. There are more troops, though, that came in. As you can see, this looks a little denser. This a little thicker, too. And up there, there's a few extras. But this is the turn where we're going to launch attacks along the above the Danube, basically, to try to break through. And basically what I'm looking at is stress coming from here. I'm hoping to break that line and force it to fall back. Not just shatter it like could happen with this line, but dislodge it. So the Ruskies made a little bit of ground here, traded some casualties here that the Germans can't afford to lose. The Russians certainly can. They've got way too many troops down there for, you know, the front that they can actually attack along. And they're set up to push another attack headquarters into play. That's already primed. The only problem is I probably have to shift my forces around because I took enough casualties that I want to get, you know, some big infantry units up there, and that may take some time. So I may not want to do my attack right away. Germans are going to have to fall back a little bit, but, you know, those mountains give them some defensive flexibility, I think. Over here, we already looked, I think. There's nothing going on there. Here, not a success. Allied attacks across the line were lower odds than I expected. The good terrain, the forts and the good terrain, yeah. But it took Strasbourg. Didn't take this, which I completely expected to take. Didn't even drop an airstrike on there because of it. Here not successful, but there was a successful attack on Trier. The armor was able to fall back on the advance from it so that they could slam then and take whatever the hell this axis in Luxembourg itself. And that, along with some of the other movements, I believe, completely encloses the German line in zones of control. There's no way for these units to get in supply now. So they've got a potential problem, and if I don't defend the Reich, they will surrender, not next turn, not this turn, but the turn after, if they haven't figured something out. Here, we made a successful push. Basically, the Germans were given a choice between retreating a hex or losing an extra step. They chose the retreat, which is kind of interesting because it means this hex now becomes kind of more important. But that's okay because I can kind of drop back and I think hold most of this line if I desire to do so. I haven't made that decision yet. Shipping has not been done yet, but we'll pull in those extra units. But essentially, we've hooked up Marseille to the other ports, and that means if we detach Marseille, and we don't really need an additional port, and move the trucks forward, we've got enough shipping to get us into southern Germany. And, well, we got a bridge now. It's not the best bridge, but it will allow us to get into the Freiburg area, which then we have a decent bridge, I believe. No, still no road. So that's going to be a little painful either way. But, you know, that can cause all kind of problems. Plus, the Germans are going to be suffering their surrenders at this point. So I got to decide, is it time to launch some sort of offensive? Is there any value to that? Or do I just continue in my ever-suffering situation? And is it that big a deal if I give up a port here? The terrain around Antwerp, there is another river line I can defend, I guess, but I'm left with the Bulge, which, you know, I'm just not that sure that this is that big a deal, that the port there is that big a deal anymore. It may be time. It was time long ago, but it may be imperative to start defending closer to the German line. From what I can figure, the Germans can pretty much, God, every time, I don't know what I do here, but every time I step away, I've messed up this thing. I must put my elbow there or something. Anyway. Additional German forces pushing into the line. I don't think I have to give a space yet over on the East Front. Yeah, this doesn't look pretty. Yeah, there may be a surrounding issue or whatever. But as of right now, I'm holding a pretty good, as far as these things go with what I've got there, line in the East. And that pretty much goes everywhere. And I had to push back a little bit here. But that's it. In the West, I'm also refusing to budge. I've shifted more forces and taken some reinforcements over here, so we're now kind of blocking the river. We took some losses. We only took one step this time, which we again took out of these guys back here. They're not out of supply yet, and I'm going to launch an attack on this. It's not going to go well. That's going to be 18. Yeah, that's really not going to go well. 4 to 18, that's 1 to 5, or less. Yeah, I probably should not have done that, but I thought maybe they've got something weak under there. Let's see if we can bust through, because then maybe we can get an attack on this, you know, using an emergency attack next turn. But it doesn't look that way. And hey, I rolled pretty well. I take 1, they take D2R1. Well, that's not good for the Allies, is it? They're going to lose their position there. Awesome. So things are kind of petering out for the Allies. On the Russian side, not for any good reason, except I only succeeded in getting 1 attack. Now I've got 1 in reserve here, which I probably will use this turn. But in the West, it's my air points that are dying out, and those are really have been incredibly important. And now I'm beginning to kind of worry that maybe I'll have trouble breaking through here. There's a whole bunch of troops coming in. This is, you know, as was pointed out to me, the forces for the Battle of the Bulge. Well, I'm not sure whether or not they want to attack, you know, but if I can drive the Brits back from the Rhine somehow, that would be really good. However, right now, that doesn't look like that's going to be possible. It might be with those additional forces, we'll see. But we'll be losing forces as we go. These guys, of course, first, but because, well, if I don't defend the Reich, I may not have much option on them. The next supply phase, they'll die. So there aren't a lot of steps, though, there. That's 3 steps that they might just disappear on their own. Right now, though, the Americans and Brits and Free French have a lot of ports active, a lot of trucking getting to where they need to. I got another truck coming in here. By the way, I lost my airborne division. It got recalled. Bad things would have happened if I had gotten it killed, so yeah, it's probably best that I didn't actually use it. And I gotta try to figure out what I want to do. Basically, I can do 2 1-shift airstrikes or 1 2-shift airstrike, depending on whether I want to do the interdiction or not. Interdiction is kind of useful, but I don't know. I don't know how much capacity I'm going to have to, take advantage of any gains I get. An attack here isn't going to do me a lot of good. They can always fall back to whatever this river is, this unnamed river. And then over here, there's victory points, but it's, step by step, and the Germans are beginning to get into good terrain with large enough amounts of forces that it's going to be hard to crack much. Like we're set up for a lot of attrition. First along this line here. Up here in the north. Down here, this isn't really attrition, but, if I can kill that, my own damage kind of doesn't matter. Especially the units here. Yeah, I've got some decent stuff that's going to take one of them is going to take a hit. And then basically crap takes the rest of the hits. So that's fine. Trying to pick this off, just clearing out this area. But here comes the big ones. I hit here, and this is where I'm going to use all my shifts. And then we're attacking over there. And again, just trying to whittle away at the position here and make it so the Germans can't hold as much territory as they're holding in the north. Yeah, my decision to go this way, I thought I was going to be forcing them to withdraw. It hasn't been turning out that way. I haven't been getting the kind of advances through this crap that I expected. And they still have a pretty strong looking line here. That's just going to be, I think, able to just kind of turn, and defend itself. I'm not getting the huge breakthrough. Of course, I don't have armor there, where I have the armors here in the woods. But it could do some good, because I could come slashing through that piece. And beyond that, I'm not sure what. I mean, assuming I destroy this, these guys are not going to be slashing through anything. They got themselves tied down. However, on the other hand, there are some kind of weak spaces being exposed everywhere. If the Germans want to come flooding out, they could. I don't know what happens if they do. I feel like that's suicidal. Like they'll be running out, kind of like the Huscarls charging down the hill at Hastings. It's like, yeah, let the Ferd go. But in this case, it's like, yeah, I mean, this is what I've got to defend with. I don't really have a lot of extra pieces. If I throw a lot of them out, kill off some allied pieces, what does it really do for me? That's the question. Let's see what the attacks bring us. Right, so the Russian front is as bloody as you'd expect it to be. Crunching through here, not getting any kind of breakthrough or anything. I mean, nothing of significance, because there's zones all over. The movement's just too hard. So we're trying to chomp our way through. But up here, yeah, we got a nice sweep around the side here. But we took huge hits when we hit in here. And, it was really just the very, very wide span of results that you can get off this combat results table. That's something I like, but some people might not be happy not being able to really predict what your results are going to be likely to be. They can vary quite a bit. Over here, the Southern forces, hey, they did some damage, right? Monty is kicking butt, clearing things out here. However, the Americans are not doing so hot. We had a 6-1 attack here and got an A1D1 result out of it. And then over here, this wasn't very pleasant to begin with. It was like, I think, a 3-1. New forces landing. Most importantly, a truck, and we might really abandon either those two ports or perhaps more reasonably get rid of these trucks and give up Marseille. We're run at the end of our supply line for the Americans up here and the Brits as well. They're really not in good supply. This guy, I don't even believe is hooked up. He's just trying to escape, basically, which is fine. And he can draw a supply from this. Let's see, one. No, I don't have to count that hex because the zone gets countered. So that's kind of the thing. I mean, I've got everybody in supply, but it's barely. However, 2 trucks from there, 1 more there. I got enough that I can press on and actually maybe go in multiple directions if need be. So that shouldn't be too big a deal. We should flip this over. That's there. And we're on to the German side of the turn. And I need to rest a bit. I was thinking I had massively screwed up with the Germans in the west. And yeah, I don't like the fact that they're losing forces to surrender already. I wish I had set up so that wasn't happening. But, other than that, I kind of got them stymied. I mean, they keep hitting, but they're not gaining a lot of ground. Yeah, sure, Monty's doing some good jobs there. And the trucks are going to come through. I don't know how much that's going to help in general, though. It hasn't been... this turn was the first turn where there was a move I would have liked to have made, but I couldn't because it would have put me beyond my supply reach. I wouldn't have been able to make the attack I wanted to. But in the east, wow, things suck. I mean, Berlin's almost open. This huge force, it slammed into the Germans and did a lot of damage. And I think some of that is that I haven't been pulling forces out of here. This has been holding pretty well. This has been a strong line. Now, I started filtering a couple of units up, but I don't think it's enough. I think there's not going to be any race for Berlin or anything. The Russians are just going to run over it. I mean, there's no line of forts. There's some woods and some cities and stuff. There's nothing that's really going to stop me the way the Ardennes are. And the way this is, I could certainly start pulling more forces out, but to me, this looks like the Russians, Western Germans are significantly in the lead now. Now, the game's not over, Could be the Germans collapse here completely too. That wouldn't be historical, but then again, this isn't either. Usually I'm okay on defense, but maybe it's when I'm given terrain that I can kind of defend more easily. Here, a lot of empty. And I had a real hard time, but then again, maybe the Russians don't get attacks. Maybe, I don't know. There's a luck factor there. I don't feel like I've been getting tremendously heavy amount of attacks, but I feel like the Russians have been gaining ground at a much, much better rate than I would expect. Mainly, I don't know. I mean, maybe I gave it up too easily. It's hard to tell. I don't feel like I have the troops to hold a line anywhere, and there's not a lot of good terrain between these two. And there was a lot of crap here. I would have gotten slaughtered out in the open there too. So I don't know. One thing that is on my mind though, this game started out pretty easy, really. No Eastern map, very limited little fights here. And now it's ballooned into something where the turns are taking a significant effort to play each turn. And yeah, that crimps kind of how much play I get in. And I'm also, of course, talking less than I did initially. That's always a factor in games. I like it better when games kind of ramp up slowly. you know, like compared to Stalingrad, where you have to make so many huge choices right at the beginning of the game. And it's like, here, it felt like my initial choices. Yeah, I had the invasion site that directs the whole game. There's no question that there could be a lot of thought in that, but once you kind of make that decision, it's not hard. There's not a lot of factor counting. There's not a lot of crap like that going on. I screw things up, but that's just the nature of me. But there's, you know, and even now, I don't feel like any given turn, like I have tough decisions as to, okay, can I get there with enough stuff? You know, can I hit it hard enough? Does it feel like I can hit it hard? But I've had the time with small attacks, small situations early in the game to get kind of a feel for what what a stack looks like, and what kind of strength I'm expecting to hit when I run into it, and what I can probably take out. And with the variable combat and everything, it's, you know, it's never going to be there's no real science to figuring out exactly what you need to hit something. You go by feel with a lot of this game, and you might come out lucky even if you screw up, and you might come out unlucky even if you have your guesses right and everything. And I just feel like I've made some sort of big strategic decisions, and then the flow of the play, there's mechanical effort in the flow, but the mechanical effort isn't kind of determining my strategic decisions all that much. It's like, okay, you know, I'm gonna have defenses here, I'm gonna have defenses along this line, great. I set them up. I try to balance the forces kind of on feel more than anything else. I really hate counting factors all over the place. And then the opponent comes charging in, hits what he can reach, kind of. That looks like it has good odds. And, you know, the results of it determine what your next moves are going to be. More than sort of this, I have to be able to get a 3-1 on this hex. Therefore, let's see, I'm willing to sacrifice this unit on a shitty odds attack in order to peel off enough strength. And then, you know, I just really hate games where too much of the effort is spent on the counting and everything. And SCS is kind of cool in that it, you know, tries to dissuade that in as many ways as possible. But calculating the odds is annoying. Just more annoying than normal odds, that's all. As we enter December, the additional trucks over in the west, really I've got 2 more here if I need it. I'm already shifted the one from there simply so that I can kind of see what the landscape's going to look like. That's shifted up here to better support the British and American Army. If I get a breakthrough over here or up in the north, I may need to strip the trucks, and in fact I probably will anyway, off of this southern route. It's not really a big deal as long as I can get within range of this truck using strategic movement. Since there's not, you know, the Germans don't have air power or whatever, that's okay. So we should have a much better range. Makes the need to try to take Boulogne-sur-Mer less of a major issue. And although we're interested in the Low Countries stuff, really the big points are here, and busting through there may be more important. Which makes me question why I'm putting my air power here. I was mainly for movement, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to bust through this, but maybe I don't care. Maybe I keep that line, and maybe I just keep trying to push the Germans back in the Bulge area. On the Russian front, bad news for the Russians. They only got 1 headquarters active, and it's in the south. We'll be able to support attacks along the river line here, but it means, hey, I'm not going to get to charge right through Berlin or whatever very easily. I think I'm kind of coming to why I don't like East Front and why World War II is less appealing to me in some ways. East Front's this wide open thing without a lot of defensive terrain, where maneuver is everything. I'm a guy who likes static defense, hence my love of World War I. You know, this stuff's okay for me. I have a real trouble defending in the wide open area, or attacking for that matter, but because the thinking is just different. It's almost like naval combat to me in a way. It's like it's just too open. Anyway, Russians push their line forward. It's okay that they don't get to do anything this turn because, except for right here, they really kind of are chasing the Germans, so that's not too big a deal. We're going to have some attacks over here, obviously. Brits going to try continuing their sieges here. Patton is going to try to blow through here. In both cases, we're trying to get behind the Germans and force them to give up more territory than they would otherwise. Because if we hit, say, this hex, which would be easier to hit, and I mean, we don't know, right? We don't know which one, let's put our attack in the important one. We don't know, I don't have to do this until it actually happens, but we don't know which, I don't know what I was going to say. Oh yeah, we don't know if the odds are good enough. So that's kind of an iffy thing, especially here on the British attack. But we're hoping. Is this fortified? If this isn't fortified, yeah, it is. I was going to say, if it's not fortified, maybe we want the bombers there. We only have 2 again this turn. But by cutting off behind. The Germans had this kind of, oh look, I'm taking 2 hexes. They could have been all stacked in one, or 4 of the units stacked in one, and had a stronger point. But it would have been easier to get more units in on it, and there's something very tempting about just blowing this unit away. But then we're just going to creep 1 hex forward each turn, and that's not going to work very well. We need to make some ground up to make up for what the Russians are doing. Of course, this unit is just completely blocking the Russians. Yeah, I can bypass it. In fact, I probably want to throw something around. I'm sure I had enough movement to do this. That'll drop it out of supply at least. And cause it some problems. I don't think it surrenders, but at least it's weaker after it gets that out of supply marker. Yeah. So anyway, we're hitting here, we're hitting back here, and we're going to attempt to hit here. But, we're shooting 3 hexes. Of course, over on the Russian front, it's not that many more when the whole horde moves forward because of the way the design is. It doesn't require you to attack, and it's kind of tough to attack a single hex even. So you end up concentrating your fighting, and it's more realistic than the old model where there's fighting everywhere on the front, massive fighting everywhere on the front, rather than just kind of an attrition level fighting. And it depends on what you want to say is being abstracted. Here, there's none of that attrition level fighting going on. But on the other hand, where you concentrate is actually hitting the pinpoint point. And that feels to me more accurate, even though in both cases you're abstracting something away. In the other model, you're abstracting away the main event and just kind of making it seem like there's a push across, large sections of the front. Although Sokovs and such not do kind of represent the attrition warfare, but they don't really, because that's a low-level warfare that's going on throughout the period as opposed to what it appears to be, which is a suicidal dash, to hold off some units. That's not what's happening. What's actually more likely is happening is a big force maneuvers, smashes into another big force. If that's not going well and troops are getting drawn and weakening the line elsewhere, then there's a turn and a strike there. that level of detail would be almost impossible to capture, you know, at the micro level in this scale. Okay, let's roll some dice, I guess. Too much chatter. This feels like the turn the hammer fell. Although up there was last turn, I guess. The Russians punched through. First of all, they realized, hey, there's a road here, and I had to kind of cheat because I had forgotten with both sides. And honestly, you know, it would have been an easy smash through. So I repositioned a little bit of the German forces that were down here. But the Russians decided to cross the road and attack. You know, they're divided by 3, but they did some damage. But the biggie is they got a, well, what could have been a breakthrough here, but I would have been outrunning my supply. I don't have emergency attacks for the Russians or anything like that. So they performed, you know, a degradation of that line that's making it look like I probably can't hold this with how thin it's getting. I think the Germans are going to be pulling out of Budapest and the surrounding area as quickly as they can. You know, how quickly that is hard to tell, and they will be chased if the Russians get offensives, and with 3 army groups down there, they probably will, or 3 armies down there. No, those are fronts. Okay. Whatever. 3 fronts in Hungary and Czechoslovakia. Over here, Monty continued his wonderful luck, something like a 2-to-1 attack, and he busted through, cut these guys off. Now he's got a clear ride through Mainz. The German position looks degraded there. Now this was a very lucky attack. Patton, however, got to be Patton. Now, his initial attack wasn't too much better. I think it was just a 3-to-1, even with the air power or something. I'm not sure. But he managed to pound through. Maybe it was 4-to-1, 2-to-1 plus 2 shifts. And you can see he's expanded, really threatening this pocket down here. I don't think I can hold it any longer. Over here, of course, whoever's, I don't know who's in charge of the First Army, ended up launching an attack which did not go well. Now we've got the Free French coming up, and their armor has gone and joined Patton because he's doing so well. Didn't even outrun his supply. What a dude. Thought about it because I have plenty of emergency attack markers. You know, he could actually push things pretty hard, but this was as far as he could actually go, and I was able to set it up so I stayed in supply. But yeah, he's really threatening the whole existence of the German position. And it's funny because by holding this whole line for so long, now the bulge doesn't really exist. And it's like there's no good staging point for the Germans to be coming out of and trying to create a better line or something with all those troops they have. So I don't know if we're going to see an offensive here. They seem to be doing better so far at holding the Western Allies off, but we're not absolutely sure that that's going to work out just because this looks like imminent collapse right now. I really think I've got to give up the line here and fall back to something kind of paralleling the Rhine. We'll see. But after taking the shipping that I forgot about, see here on turn 16 on the west, we had a transfer. A couple of units are taken off the board, and they'll be coming in the east next turn. I had an infantry division that's weak, and I've been keeping a garrison or 2 alive on the board just so that, because that's the removal. And you kind of have to be aware of the reinforcement chart to handle it properly. And I screwed that up, actually, because back last turn, I was supposed to remove the Hermann Goering division. And then what next turn I remove the 18th SS Panzer Grenadiers, which I don't know where they are. You know, I'll find them, but here's the thing. I get a bonus if I get them killed. Because they regenerate. It's a couple of units that happens to. I probably had expended a replacement point to get the Hermann Goering where it was. Although, I don't know, maybe it didn't get attacked. Doesn't matter much. Anyway, I got to figure out where these units come in. I think these guys are A's, but I'm not sure. And this one is in Vienna. Vienna's not. Oh, yeah, it is. I was afraid it was under my map. All right. And the Germans go ahead with the defend the Reich option at this point because it was time to pull back. And it's not as bad as it looked. Funny how defense works that way, right? You know, I've got the river line covered over here. These guys, I took a couple of them as hits, but I'm leaving people there so that there's something of a speed bump, cause the Allies some trouble. They no longer surrender, so they're going to be wiped out. Over here, yeah, we're doing the same kind of thing over at Boulogne-sur-Mer, trying to make it so that, you know, it doesn't just fall automatically. They're going to have to actually launch an attack and go through that trouble. The actual line, well, the bulge is now an American bulge, which is ready to be pinched, right? Yeah, it really kind of looks like it. And it's beginning to look very tempting. Over here, yeah, we need another supply marker. They weren't going to be able to get very far. I've traced, this doesn't look as good. I've traced a line over here, but over here, it was a little bit stronger than I thought. A little bit of falling back, and another river line. I'm still holding Budapest, and you know, I mean, it all really comes down to how many of those Russian attacks are triggered and are available. And we'll see. You know, chances are this isn't going to go well. I mean, an attack across here can happen. Attacks over there. That whole German line might get shot up in ways that if it withdrew, it wouldn't have. But on the other hand, the longer I can delay these things, the better it seems, sort of. I don't know, I guess. Never sure. Oh, ooh. There's somebody who didn't die. What's up with him? You gotta remember to take him as a surrender someday. All right. So here we're pushing into the second turn in December, I guess. And bunch of air points. I got 7 air points. Cool. Plus one I left on the map. Some more infantry landing in the north. You know, just more reinforcements pushing in. And I should be able to try to blast away some of these Germans. And of course, there's a whole bunch coming in. Over here on the east, Russians got 2 of their headquarters here. So not only do they have an attack this turn, they have an attack next turn, right? The advantage of having so many headquarters down there, 3 of them down there. This guy, though, he's the trouble. Do I bust up down here, or do I run up and try to let these guys continue on? And I have too few headquarters in the northern area and too many down here, but I'm very tempted to fight here because that might degrade this whole line in a way that whatever I do here, I mean, yeah, I have to take care of that speed bump, but it's not my biggest concern in a lot of ways. There's not a whole hell of a lot right here, and I could continue pushing forward from Berlin if need be. maybe, I don't know. So I'm very, very tempted to make the attacks here. On the other hand, from here, depending on where I move, where I'm able to move, I might be able to launch another attack downward, but I don't feel like I'm really in good position in that southern area, mainly because that stupid speed bump being there. But in the east, the Russians have decided to launch an attack here to try to degrade this position significantly. We're also launching attacks all along here, and we'll see how those work out. Brits pushing forward, trying to get a punch through across the Rhine there. And I don't know what I'd do if I succeed, and also trying to eliminate this thing. Yeah, it's kind of a matter of, gee, I ought to clean up this crap, but I also ought to be putting pressure on the Germans in terms of like preventing retreats across the river. Patton's got a couple of hits here that he's trying to make, and I don't know who the hell's here, First Army. Doing a strike there. We're of course hitting over at our port because, well, we can. And kind of trying to cut off German units so that they don't have anywhere good to go. And we might see, depending on how things fall, this unit, I'm not going to be able to get away. Well, if I get an advance, I can get away from that and then maybe do an overrun or something here, or a couple of them. I did keep one airstrike left, although the majority of them are being spent on the attacks. I think this is it over here, finally. Russians got breakthroughs here, here, up here. They also pushed these guys down. It really doesn't look like that German line can stand there any longer, but I know I've said that before, but at least they were on their side. You know, they had the Danube as a defensive line. They had these. I just don't see continuing to try to defend there. Although who knows? You know, I mean, what the hell? Up here, the Russians moving closer. Had to be careful. I wanted to do an exploit and kind of cause some problems behind the German lines, but no, there's the Russian tether roll that prevents that from happening. Ooh. Let's drop this guy in. I didn't use my last airstrike, which is a shame. I feel like I wasted something. Over here, success. Over here, a big bad failure by the Americans. And they had a couple of them. Patton didn't do too well either. He cleared one unit out of the way, and we've got this guy kind of cut off. He's going to have supply problems if he doesn't do something about it. But Montgomery's slipping around the Rhine at this point with, you know, the possibility of clearing this out and then beginning to advance. Not a whole hell of a lot there. Nuremberg's worthwhile. But, you know, I can't allow them free access back here because they could start cutting my supply for the entirety of the German army. So I think getting across there and trying to clean these out is a pretty good idea. I got to be careful. I got a garrison thing, you know, make sure that there are no cities back here. And that's kind of tricky. You can't cross the line here, but Munich, Nuremberg, Stuttgart, Mannheim's a city. I don't think there's any back here. And then up to Frankfurt. And just, you know, I've got two headquarters. I can do a lot there. I can use my armor for whatever it is that's more dangerous, which in this case is trying to sweep, but later maybe moving up there and use the other units to garrison. Maybe even bring some Americans over. I mean, you know, they don't actually have to be in supply or anything to serve as garrison units. However, lots of Germans coming in the next turn, or in this turn, and see what they can do with them, right? First of all, there aren't a lot of reserves coming in. They're mainly Volksgrenadiers. I was expecting some kind of armored army. No, I had that already. I had to keep that in place and protect it. I could build it up, but it's not the best defensive stuff that I have. And without any rules to make me be Hitler or anything, I don't see too much of an advantage to going on the offensive in the West. Moreover, I think the Allies fucked up. Yeah, me, but they're both me. Sliding this armor down here, got cut off those troops in Frankfurt. And now, I mean, I've got a pile of emergency attacks. So we're going to be able to do what we wanted to do, I think, anyway. It's just not as clean as I had hoped. But I guess the key is the Germans don't have enough stuff to deal with this right out the bat. So I'm kind of trying to protect things here, extricate what I can, and give ground slowly. Hope that my Russians can gain ground more quickly, because it looks like they are, and just try to hold the Western Allies, pin them down as much as possible instead of wasting all my units on some kind of a vainglorious attack. The bulge type idea. I mean, there really isn't much that I see to gain from it. There's no big supply bonus for doing so. There's no real cutting the enemy's supply, not with all those emergency attack markers. There's just not going to be anything that I can do that makes a lot of sense for me. So I think just pulling back and trying to maintain the best defensive line I can is the best I can do. And New Year, got the Germans trying to extricate themselves from the Ardennes. It's not trivial. I got a river line there. Maybe I should have a couple units there to guard that bridge. Trying to extricate these final units back here. Not that mechanized, that could have gotten out if it wanted to. But there's all that armor there because I'm trying to get things out carefully. But it just looks like I'm going to get my ass pocketed. And maybe I'm best off getting out of there. These guys really couldn't do much better. He came out 1, 2, 3. I could do better than I did. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm going to get some of this shit here. So he came out of here 1, 2, 3. 4. The roads are not good, but I think that's a better position than I was in. I was looking at, get this nice river line, but it's not going to be able to be used anyhow. Those might be units that I'm taking as destruction from my die roll. Over here, I've cut the Allies off, and I forgot to try to extricate these guys. We should see where we can get them. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can get these out of here and get all of these into there unless there's an infantry under there. Front doesn't look quite as sanguine. I mean, yeah, I've got some static divisions that I was able to throw into the line. And I know I've got this 1 hex, 1 unit in a hex. It's as far as it could get. They're so slow. If the Russians want to hit there, that's fine. It doesn't really give them anything. Although they can get an advance they wouldn't otherwise get. And then over here, again, trying to extricate myself, but it's not pretty at all. Very, very difficult to face overwhelming numbers. Now, the Western Allies definitely did worse than historical in a lot of ways, except for the Rhine crossing, which was my emphasis towards the Rhine. That's not going to get me in too much trouble, I hope. But yeah, I mean, nothing towards the market garden operation or anything anywhere near the time that it was. and we've taken forever to make the northern penetration, but we're pretty good in the Ardens. And then over here, it feels like again, my knowledge of World War II is pretty limited, but it feels like the Russians are doing a little bit better than they should be over there, and maybe a little worse than they did historically down here. So that probably plays out, and it may be explained by shifting forces down here, using an attack down there, everything like that. No, it would be the opposite, wouldn't it? Whatever. All right. I'll get at least another turn on this video. They're getting fatiguing. Okay, so the Allies actually, some Free French showing up in Paris. Forces beginning to form. Decent amount of air points, 4 of them. Putting them where the main fighting is. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a pain to get through, but this stretches all the way back, so it's pretty hard to not take it. It just covers so much, and most of my more difficult attacks should be in there. It's just the infantry is going to have a hard time cutting through here, but most of the value, I think, I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's up here where I can't really reach. Russians didn't get a whole lot here. They got 1 attack up there, and then they have their leftover 1 here. And so we'll see some action. Push towards Berlin, perhaps, or maybe go clean up this problem and get everybody under 1 front there. I'd really like to get these units incorporated, like get past this woods so that I can shift units back and forth and everything, but right now that's not key. A lot of replacement points for the Russians, and including some armor and some guard cav and stuff like that should help fuel the attack. This game's getting tough. In an inconsistent state right now. I'm partway through my movement with the 8 Western Allies, but I'm trying to find some sort of linchpin to this defense that I can strike. And I mean, you know, if I could get up here or something, one that's weak. It's got background units to it, so it doesn't seem like it's the best choice. This piece here is beginning to really attract my attention, because if I can cut there, I can cause problems for these guys. Now, the infantry is going to come in and start clearing them out, but I'm just, you know, trying to figure out a place where my armor can be, and its heavy attack capabilities can be effective in trying to break this line. It's a powerful line still. Oh boy. All right, so Russian breakthroughs, and I'm making kind of lower odds attacks, but I just have the numbers so I can do that. Especially with the overruns and such not, but we blasted through, sort of connected, not quite. The main thing is I've slipped one of the guard cav over so that I have more mobile force over here. This guy used his attack, so he's flipped, and this guy, we have no attacks left in reserve. Up here, punched a couple of holes in the line, nothing major. In a couple of places, like up here in the mountains, we ended up taking, you know, huge casualties. This is the doubled casualties. Over here, Monty is just relying on luck, basically, and getting through just fine. I should have attacked here, what the hell. Those forces under the emergency attack marker managed to combine with what was here on an attack here. That wasn't a terrible attack. I had like 3-1, 4-1 with the air support, I think. But then he just decided, oh, hell, I got like probably a 2-1 on the overrun. Let's do that in the mechanized, the exploit movement. He went and did it. No losses, destroyed them. It's just like, you know, it's a matter of, hey, we got to do things quickly. And what am I going to do? I'm going to probably lose a factor, but that's okay. I'm getting a replacement point each turn, and the Brits just aren't losing that much. So let's, they have basically nothing lost there. They could start rebuilding some of these infantry. They will, but the Americans not so good. I mean, they managed to hammer this little piece here. I didn't see anything to do with my exploit movement. You know what? I may want to cover this piece so it doesn't die. It's leaving a bit of a hole, but that's okay. The Germans aren't going to try to sneak in there. They'll just die. Over here, not too impressive. Here we managed to push these units back without losses, which is okay, but it's a schlag going through there. I'm okay on supplies. I had to rearrange some of my trucks to be able to set up some forces up here. But yeah, the whole moving through the Ardennes is just so tough. And should I be doing that? Should I just leave a garrison there and try to advance elsewhere, as was more historically done? Probably, but I'm getting some ground here that's pretty good. So by continuing the push there, I think that's actually supporting this to some extent, as opposed to if I was throwing my weight up into the Low Countries. And that's not going to be trivial to clear either. I mean, there's some hideous terrain up there that I don't want to deal with. So, all right, we'll go to the German turn. Half of January ends. Germans kind of blew through here. There was one weak garrison unit there. They paid a little bit of a cost, but they're trying to escape through to Prague, leaving only a minimal force here, getting as much as I can along the line for Berlin. We're beginning to get the transfer units in. I got to be careful because I keep my eastern units separated from my western units in the bags for setup, and as they die, there are now some western units over here, and I just have to starting to evacuate Breslau, just hoping to get an extra unit out. It's kind of a, hey, you want to do a headquarters call on just hunting that unit, especially if I'm freeing up the forces at Breslau. I don't know. And then here, inching my way out and trying to cover more of German, more of the North German area, so that I can prevent some of the fair-sized points up here and here from falling. But yeah, it looks, again, I've got some points here that are going to be tough for the Western Allies to break apart. And I'm not sure I see any real barrier in front of the Soviets, except do they get to act or not. I guess it's time to load this one up. I don't know if we'll be able to get the next one in there, but this is, January 15th of 45.